Hello, everybody. It's me, Mr. Oliver, and I'm here to talk about Chapter 28 and also 29. We begin our chapter with a wonderful little introduction to art. Chapter 28 has lots of different interesting topics. They actually cram most of what I studied in college all in one chapter, which is nice because everything gets so much attention. And one of the things they talk about is the fact that after World War I, people lose faith. They lose faith literally in religion. They lose faith in each other. And they lose faith in, like, what's the meaning of it all, man? What's the point of even doing art? And along comes our bro, Marcel Duchamp. Now, Duchamp is kind of fellow. He's a prankster. Okay, I like this guy. He's fun, but he's also a pretty decent artist. For example, this here is a picture he drew. Mr. Oliver, this looks familiar. It should look familiar, hopefully, because it is kind of the end of the year for AP Euro, and hopefully this looks familiar. But it is the Mona Lisa.
No, it's not. Look there. What do you mean? Hey, she has a mustache.
She does have a mustache. So what's that all about? I drew the little arrows pointing to the mustache. That's not part of the original painting. Anyway, Marcel Duchamp is the kind of fella that's gonna create something like this. It's a Mona Lisa, and he's gonna put a little mustache on it. You've probably done that when you've been bored and you have a magazine in front of you. You draw little mustaches on it. Maybe you have a picture of some teacher that isn't me, and you're like, I'm going to draw a little mustache on you, dumb. Well, Marcel Duchamp does this, and at the bottom of the picture, down here, he writes, if you say it out loud in French, it says a fairly obscene phrase, which basically says that the Mona Lisa is good to go, if you know what I mean, and I think that you do. If you don't, then good, because quite frankly, I don't know if a lot of kids wouldn't know what that means. So good for you. Give yourself a gold star for innocence. So anyway, why would he do this? Because the guy is all about the crazy. He's all about the ridiculous. He's all about making fun of art. Because remember what I was saying a couple of seconds ago? I said people began to question the whole point of everything, including art. So they said, well, what is art anyway? Can I just do an old painting, add a mustache, and allude to an obscene phrase, and then be like, that's art? Yes. That's what he says. He needs a name for his movement. So he and some of his buddies are sitting around. They say, you know what we ought to do? We ought to get up a French dictionary. And you're like, a French dictionary? What are we going to do with that? Well, what they do is they go to Google Translate. No, they don't go to Google Translate. That's what I'm doing. They turn the pages of the dictionary and randomly put their finger down. And then they say, this word shall be the name of our movement. And they choose the word Dada. And it's called Dadaism. And if you use Google Translate, French to English would say a hobby horse. So what's a hobby horse? Well, I put it on the screen using Google image search. Because of the internet, of course, there was a picture I didn't want to show, so I had to edit that part out. And you search for hobby horses. This is the world we live in, okay, people? It's a child's toy. It's one of those little things where there's like a stick and then like a horse head. You can ride it around your room like a cowboy. Perhaps you wear a cowboy hat. Perhaps you still are wearing a cowboy hat right now. I don't know. I don't judge. But the point is, this is a ridiculous name for an art movement. And that's what he's doing. It's supposed to be a ridiculous name for an art movement. He is saying, art means nothing. He is anti-art, and he's also an artist. And yet he says it does mean things. It's silly, but I thought it meant nothing. It does. Look here, here's some more stuff I did. This is not a bad little picture here on the right. It's something, and you go, well, what's it called? It's a nude descending a staircase. And you say, well, I do not see a nude, which frankly good. You could probably do with seeing less nudes in this world. But it's supposed to be like a figure coming down a staircase. And imagine it's frame by frame by frame by frame by frame by frame. And that's what we got here. If you look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like going down a staircase. You say, well, that's ridiculous. Ooh, it doesn't look like a person at all. Is it a man? Is it a woman? Is it a human? It doesn't say. Makes you think. There's a story. Marcel Duchamp went to a museum once. Some dude is sitting there looking at an art, you know, as one does. And he says, I like this painting, because they're in France, so they speak French. And he says, I like this painting. And Marcel Duchamp looks at that dude and he says, do you? Makes him, like, what do you, of course I do. Okay. Well, are you questioning me questioning myself? It's crazy. Anyway, as you can see, this thing is bonkers nuts. This is, it's, here, okay, you got like a window or something, and then you got like a, picture or something, and it says the bride stripped bare by her bachelors. What does that mean at all? And then you look at this other stuff and you're like, Mr. Oliver, is that a urinal? Yes, it's a urinal. Why does he have a urinal? Because what makes that art as opposed to something else? He went to a porcelain supply factory, picked up a urinal, put it down on a pedestal, moved it slightly, then said, art, signed it, done. Puts a bicycle wheel on a stool, done, bicycle wheel. And you say, well, that's not art. Is it? What makes it not art? What makes art art? It's in a museum. No one else has done it before. Is it art? He's attacking the whole notion of what art is, and that's pretty dope. There's other people who are challenging art. Cubism. And I said here, use of geometric shapes and abstract collages. Well, what is that all about? Is it like preschool art? Like, look at that. My little sister could do that, you say. Could they really? Because what Picasso is doing here, he, of all the Cubist people in the world, you need to know one, and that is Pablo Picasso. What Picasso did is he knows how to paint. He's choosing to represent his subject in this way. Well, why? I don't know. That's what he chose. Why does he choose to paint this naked lady with a mandolin? Like that. I don't know. Cubes. He says we can all be reduced down to our most basic forms with cubes. There's a girl. You're like, oh, okay, well, that's less cubey, so that something's wrong with that girl. Picasso liked Egyptian art and the whole idea of like the hieroglyphics, where there would be like an Egyptian person and they'd be all like, you know, whatever, Egyptian personing, and you'd be able to see both their eyes. So Picasso was like, you know what? I want to do that. I want to portray innocent little things like, yeah, this little girl, she's playing with a doll, and make it super creepy by having her eyes be in the wrong place and her nose in the wrong place, because it's like she's over here and also over here at the same time. Because after the camera is invented, what's the point in being hyper realistic? What's the point in making everything exactly as you see it? Isn't it more interesting to play with perspective? That's what these modern artists are doing. Picasso later on starts doing stuff that's really straight up abstract. I mean, you got, I guess that's a dude right here, and maybe a piano player, and a monster? Or maybe not. Ah, it's the face of crazy. What is happening? I don't like it. Moving on. This here, Picasso is painting some naked ladies. Artists do that. And this one's got a crazy face and another crazy face. Pablo Picasso was also interested in using stuff from Africa, like African masks, as inspiration. And he does it, and here he's doing it on the faces of some prostitutes. He's got, by the way, he's got like little grapes down here, maybe some fruit, I guess, a little fruit bowl. That's a nice thing to include in your picture of naked Cubist women. And I don't know if he's trying to imply they're animals or what. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a huge fan of the Picasso. This is probably my favorite painting by him, and it's called Guernica. And basically, Guernica is a picture showing the effects of war. And you look at the picture and you're like, well, there's like a lady here and she's holding something. That's a mother cradling her, I guess, dead infant. And then up here you got this bull's head, and then you got a person, perhaps they're being trampled by this horse here, and over here a severed head, perhaps a person screaming. Is there a fire? It's chaotic, it's disturbing, just like a village would be while it's being bombed. And that's the scene he's doing. He's doing a scene of a real village that was really bombed during the Spanish Civil War, where General Franco and his fascist forces were trying to take over the government, and they succeeded. And this picture is supposed to kind of make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to look disjointed. It's supposed to look like a little bit of hell on earth, quite frankly. Because if you want to find hell on earth, I've never been in a bombing, but I imagine that bombings would make you feel that way. Fun fact, by the way, where did Franco get his support from? Where did he get his weapons? He was given them by the Nazis over in Germany and by Mussolini in Italy. And they did this as kind of like a test run with their stuff. They wanted Franco to use it, and then they wanted to see how well it worked in combat. And then they actually used it later on in World War II. Finally, I want to talk about Surrealism. Surrealism is the refusal to accept ordinary reality and dream worlds. But we'll talk about that more in part 2. Have a nice day.